Hey guys, and welcome to the February video for the 2016 Classics Challenge. I am going to be talking about Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte. I have two editions, the Penguin Classics Deluxe Edition, Barnes & Noble Leatherbound Edition. Wuthering Heights. At one point in the book, that irritating song really started to make sense. Like, it really started to make sense, and I was just like, every time it was someone said Wuthering Heights or I saw Heathcliff or Cathy, my brain started playing that song and it was infuriating. There's nothing wrong with mostly reading YA, right? But as a reader of mostly YA, there's probably some literary aspects that, again, you know, much like Pride and Prejudice, probably went straight over my head. Wuthering Heights is one that I've heard mixed things about. Half the people I know loved it, the other half didn't like it. When I went into reading it, I was a bit confused in the beginning because I was expecting this romance that was all about Cathy and Heathcliff, narrated from Cathy's point of view most likely, all about how they fell in love and whatever else happened. And we had this random guy called Mr. Lockwood. Like, the dude kept using the word ejaculate to describe his speech, and it was like, please, can you stop? In the beginning you had him narrating, which completely threw me and confused me, and I was like, okay, who is this guy? And then you get to Wuthering Heights and there's all these abundance of characters, and I was like, who are you people? Who are you people? And I was so confused because I was like, so are you two Cathy and Heathcliff? And it took me a few chapters to work out who was who, and for the most part I was like, who are these people? I'm so confused. So confused. Okay, definitely not what I thought was gonna happen. So we have all these random characters, and it's kind of slow in the beginning, and then you hit Cathy's diary and things start to get interesting, and then you start to learn about the Cathy and Heathcliff that everyone knows and is iconic. You get Cathy's diary, and then you get Lockwood going to an old servant of Cathy's, I think it was, called Ellen, and she basically narrates the entire tale of what happened to all of them. The story picked up for me and I ended up being completely gripped by it, and then even when it was kind of a complete head screw, I still couldn't put it down because I was curious to know what happened. It wasn't until the whole thing with Cathy and Heathcliff was done that I was kind of like, okay, I don't really care now. Really don't care. Found it a lot easier to read and a lot easier to get into the way of speech. I'm not sure if it's just because of how it was written or if because Pride and Prejudice had prepared me for it. Halfway point in the book and it turned into a total head screw. I was like, what the hell is going on? Like, I was just completely mind blown because everyone always went, oh, Cathy and Heathcliff, oh, I love them so much. And I'm just like, that they don't end up together. And the book is definitely gothic and it's dark and it's not the romance that Pride and Prejudice is. But like, I just like, am I reading the same story that everyone else has and that everyone else raves about? I don't know. Possibly not. Drama! So much drama in this book. Heathcliff is essentially butthurt that Cathy said something about him when he was eavesdropping, and something that he didn't like, and he didn't bother staying to hear the rest of what she said, which was, you know, perfectly nice and everything, and he just went off and got all butthurt about that, and then he comes back and he wants revenge or whatever. And he's a complete arsehole of a character. Like, Wuthering Heights shows a less romantic side of the time. Everyone romanticises that time period. I think Wuthering Heights showed a darker side to it. You know, women couldn't do whatever they wanted. They had to do whatever the men wanted. You know, it showed how women were treated in that time by, not all the time, but they showed how some of them were treated and what life was like for some of them. So the characters weren't very nice, let's be honest. Lockwood, who uses the word ejaculate far too many times in his narrative, was like, I'm tolerably attractive, which means he probably wasn't. He just annoyed me with that, I'm tolerably attractive and all of that. Fair enough for Cathy and her behaviour, because I think she's entitled, after everything that happened, to be bitchy, but because Lockwood's a bloke, he doesn't agree with that at all. because he's black and his dick. I just didn't like. Hindley, flawed, crazy, but you kind of felt for him. I know wish he did kill Heathcliff though, but he was a bit of a fail about that. Ellen was a complete shit stirrer, but then towards the end I ended up liking her for her how she looked after young Cathy. Isabella I didn't like at all. Didn't like her at all. Edgar I thought was a pansy, but then he redeemed himself. I enjoyed that Cathy and Heathcliff weren't perfect. Neither of them are ever painted in a particularly nice light by other people talking about them, and they both had their faults. Original Cathy, I'm not sure how I feel about her, because I admired her loyalty to Heathcliff when they were kids, and her friendship with him, but as she got older she was such a drama queen. Heathcliff I just thought was, I'm sure he's misunderstood. There were so many points when he could have redeemed himself and he could have done the decent thing, but instead he decided to just carry on being a complete arsehole and carry on being evil, and he decided to then bring the kids into it and force Cathy's daughter to marry his son so he could get his hands on all the estates. I was kind of happy when I heard that he died, and that Hareton and Cathy had the chance to actually have a decent life. Heathcliff on the back of this cover looks like Edward Cullen, or he at least looks like a vampire of some description. I think it's the high collar. Cathy and Heathcliff Jr. were infuriating. I thought Edgar was a crybaby, and then we meet Linton, who is Heathcliff's son. Linton needed to grow a spine. Hated his character. I personally think he deserved what he got. Completely hated his character. Cathy, she kind of was in a mess of her own making, because everyone told her not to do it, but she thought she knew better and went off and did it anyway. She was a bit of a brat, I thought, with how she acted and how she carried on, but then I did feel sorry for her, and she developed into a much better character towards the end. The book kind of does end in the whole happily ever after thing. It has a kind of happy ending, sort of, I suppose. Mixed feelings about Wuthering Heights, because I enjoyed how it gripped me. I enjoyed the descriptions. I loved the descriptions of the moors. I loved the setting, the atmosphere to it, the gothic and dark feel to it. I loved all of that. I enjoyed the narrative surprising me, and being from someone else's point of view entirely to Cathy's, and going from present to someone narrating what happened. I enjoyed that. I enjoyed the mystery and the intrigue to it. At a steady pace, but there was more going on, and there was the intrigue, and it was compellingly written to keep you wanting to read. None of the characters were perfect. A lot of them were just plain nasty. Joseph, for example, had no redeeming qualities whatsoever. The characters made me feel things. I felt heartbroken for them. I felt infuriated by them or on their behalf. I think the characters were a lot more realistic for the time period, and were more realistic in general, because like I said, none of them were perfect. I preferred the romance from Pride and Prejudice because there was an actual romance. Like, Cathy and Heathcliff were childhood friends, and I guess feelings from that developed, but you don't really see much of them together. There's people going on about Cathy and Heathcliff's romance and how amazing it is, and I just didn't get it. Evidently I'm thick and just completely didn't get it. Felt like a lot of the time it was so over dramatic, and it was just complete drama all the time, which was what made it more interesting than Pride and Prejudice. But I'm just not sure how I feel about the book, because it was the whole, I'm stuck on the whole Cathy and Heathcliff thing, because it wasn't what I was expecting at all, and it's not what I felt it had been made out to be by the people who read it. It's like Bella and Edward love this. It's written like all across the cover, and it's just like So yeah, that's it for this month's classic. That's what I thought about Wuthering Heights. For the love of God, comment below with what you thought of Wuthering Heights if you read it. Not sure what classic I'm going to read for the month of March yet. It's my birthday month, so I'm thinking a more modern one, purely because I'm hoping it'll be easier to read. As usual, all my social media links will be down below. Come say hey. I love talking to all of you. Book depository links will also be down below. You know the drill with those. Hope you guys enjoyed today's video, and I hope to see you guys soon.
Welcome to the high tea. It's me.